right, hello everybody. I was just grabbing breakfast now. I've got this TV show every day, so it's right around the time that I start this. So we're going to be talking, welcome, just to remind, sometimes people have got a lot of different programs. What you're in now, this is the VIP program, okay? This is for people like you. It's me and you. You can ask lots of questions. I pretty much can answer. I answer all the questions that people put in here. We're talking about this book, Switch. As Maya was saying, when I got this book and got my hands on it, I started handing this out to just about everybody that I knew. All right? Why? Why is this book important to you? You know, you're spending money to be here. You're spending, you know, a couple bucks a day is what it comes out to. And I consider this, and just to remind you, it's a 24 challenge, 24 book challenge. We're going through 2 new books a month. That's 24 a year, okay? If you can go through 24 books, not just volume, see, that's more. The average person reads 1, 2, maybe 3 books a year, especially good books. But we're not just reading quantity. We're reading quality. One book like this is worth 10 of the average books that you'd read. So really you're getting what I call a 10x effect. You're reading 24 books, which is really like reading 240 books that average people read, fiction, you know, stupid novels and all this kind of stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with nonfiction, but with fiction, but there's certainly not necessarily the rewards you're going to get from reading something like this. So Switch. We're getting this book in your head. You're getting this into your head. Hopefully you've read it. Depending on when you join the program, you may not have time to read them. But by the way, I'm starting to sell books, so you can buy them directly from me and you get some bonuses. Or you can buy them on Amazon or bookstore, wherever. So this is a New York Times bestseller. These 2 authors are 2 brothers. They've written quite a few books, or they've written some good ones. Made to Stick is one. So in the Smart Reading, by the way, if you buy books from me, I've released my 7 video, the 7 module, very quick to listen to, but they're the 7 modules on how to do smart reading. Everybody asks me how I do smart reading. I need to wipe my glasses here. Everybody talks about, you know, speed reading. Ty, how do you read a book a day? By the way, my TED Talk's been finally, I've sent them the description, so it should be live within a week or so, depending on when you're watching this, if you're watching a replay. But so I talk about, you know, why I read a book a day and why you should too. So here's the thing. That's not about speed reading, because you may be intimidated by speed reading. I've developed a system. I've been reading a lot since I was 2 years old and read many thousands of books. Not sure the exact number, but quite a few. And what I've learned is a technique called smart reading is vastly superior to any supposed speed reading, because speed reading still has an issue of comprehension. You can only, doesn't matter the velocity that your eyes work at, it also matters the velocity that you can take things in, right? So anyway, when you come to a book like this, one of the techniques that I'll give you a preview is what I always do. I always read literally the back cover, the jacket, usually the front jacket, and then I like the back jacket, you know, talks about these guys are they went to Stanford and fellow at Duke, researcher at Harvard, so it gives you a little bit of, what's the word? It opens up your mind to their authority, so that also allows you to comprehend. We don't comprehend when we're listening to some random person off the street that we don't trust. So very important in your reading processes during this 24 book challenge. I challenge you, stay in this program for 12 months. I'll tell you this, trust me, you read 24 of these type of books together with coming on these calls with me. Even if you can't make every call, make at least once a month. You could do that for the next 12 months. Every area of your life is going to go towards what I call the dream, the entrepreneur lifestyle. Whether or not you're actually an entrepreneur, you're going to get the dream lifestyle that everybody wants. Not because it's a magic bullet or get rich quick scheme. It's because what else would happen if you download the world's greatest thoughts into your head? Do you think your life would get worse? It's impossible. It's impossible. The only way it's possible that your life could get worse is if you only just read books, but you never put them into instinctual action. And the reason I want you to come on these calls and be in that routine and hold yourself accountable to doing that is that helps them become instinctual as we work together. So you read the Jack, why is it so hard to make lasting change in our companies, in our communities, in our lives? The primary obstacle is a conflict that's built into the brain. Psychologists have discovered that our minds are ruled by two different systems, the rational mind and the emotional mind, that compete for control. The rational mind wants a great beach body, six-pack abs. The emotional mind wants the Oreo cookie. The rational mind wants to change something at work. The emotional mind loves the comfort of the existing routine. This tension can doom a change effort, but if it is overcome, change can come about quickly. So he talks about the home organizing guru who developed a simple technique for overcoming the dread of housekeeping. The manager who transformed a lackadaisical customer support team into service zealots by removing a standard tool of customer service. So the next thing I like to do, now we know what this book's about, I move to the table of contents. Direct the Rider. He talks about Jonathan Haidt and Happiness Hypothesis, which is a book we went through. 3 surprises about change. Motivate the element. Shape the path. Okay? So what I like to do then, after I read the table of contents, I like to read the first chapter only. Okay? Just the first chapter. And you can see here, first chapter of this book is, I don't know, not many pages. If you read the first, it's 23 pages. 23 pages. Then I scoot to the end, the last chapter. Because by reading the last chapter, guess what? He usually is going to summarize things. Also, this book's interesting in that he has a step-by-step bulletin. So for those of you super busy, at least do that. You know, I understand we can't always read the full book, and that's okay. Smart reading. Here's the underpinning of smart reading. I based it on Jeff Bezos' understanding of business. He says, or a CEO who worked with him said, the thing that made Jeff Bezos arguably the fastest, richest man in the world, okay? If you look at the velocity, he's wealthier than Mark Zuckerberg, and he did it faster than Warren Buffett, $38 billion. What was Bezos' secret? He said he didn't follow anything unless it was a rule. I mean, everything was up for conversation unless it was a law of physics. So is it a law of physics that you must read a complete book start to finish? Nope. No, that's not a law of physics. There's no mathematical equation. There is a law of physics that if you jump off your roof of your house today, you're probably going to experience a good bit of pain in a few seconds. That's a law of physics, so don't jump off. That's not up for compromise. Don't jump off your roof. But I can show you, and it's actually interesting, they talk about this book, just reading like I'm talking about now, at least gets you, like Pareto principle, 80-20. Get you 80% of the value in 20% of the time. Now, I don't recommend you only do this, but I'm just showing you baby step until you can read a full book. So he says, problem, people don't see the need to change. I'm having the not invented here problem. So he goes through some common problem, gives you quick little answers. I thought that was an interesting thing in a book. He has recommendations for additional reading. I went and bought all these books. He, of course, puts Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. He has Nudge, Mindless Eating, Influencer, Unleashing Change. But what I hope that you will get from today is the feeling that you're no longer trapped on your path to the good life if you decide that you want to have a six-pack and that's important to you, or you want to lose 20 pounds, that you're no longer bound by the fear that most people have of, oh yeah, I'm going to try another diet and it's not going to work. It doesn't work because you must proceed in life and make war with a multitude of counselors. You can't just use your willpower. So write this down. This is one of the things from this book. Okay? You can't only rely on willpower. If you want to make $1 million, but you feel like you're procrastinating, you're not doing the contracts, you're not getting out and networking, you're not building your business skills, well, I want you to know you're not going to get there purely through willpower. So, this is a quote from the book. The bigger the change you're suggesting, the more it will sap people's self-control. And when people exhaust their self-control, what they're exhausting are the mental muscles needed to think creatively, to focus, to inhibit their impulses, and to persist in the face of frustration or failure. In other words, they're exhausting precisely the mental muscles needed to make a big change. So when you hear people say that change is hard because people are lazy or resistant, that's just flat wrong. In fact, the opposite is true. Change is hard because people wear themselves out. And that's the second surprise about change. What looks like laziness is often exhaustion. Now, that's what they say in this book. I don't 100% agree with that, but I generally agree with the gist. Remember, no one source, no one book, no one person. I don't hold myself as out some perfect, infallible fountain of knowledge. I hope you don't look to me at all. I tell people, I don't even know if I look at, see myself as a mentor. I'd like to be known as somebody who helps spread good ideas. I like to be maybe a messenger, a conduit. And certainly I look at these authors of these books. Avoid extreme ideologies, as Charlie Munger says. Avoid the thought that I got this book and this has all the answers. So when they say that the reason people don't change in this book is that it's because people are resistant and they don't agree with that. I think they're wrong. I think we are. If you study the 25 cognitive biases that I talk about, we have this one that Cialdini talked about. It's consistency bias or commitment bias. Consistency bias or commitment bias. There certainly is an issue that we humans have of simply liking the routine. But that's not enough to explain. We don't love being super unhealthy. No one loves being broke. We may love little decisions that get us there. We may be committed to dating or marrying or, having the wrong friends and business partners. But he's certainly correct. There's another factor here that not many people talk about, and that's what I want to focus on in this book, is that at some level, your brain just simply gets tired. And you have to respect that. You have to respect. Sometimes we think we're superhuman. You must respect the level of exhaustion your brain can reach. So, especially when it's something hard. I'll read you an interesting quote. If you guys follow my social networks, I posted a picture on my Instagram and Facebook. And it was very interesting, this poem. I finally got this old Amish guy, Jake Martin. The Amish speak an oral language. It's not written down. It's a dialect called Pennsylvania Dutch. So I posted on my on my Facebook here, a copy of this. I got him to handwrite the poem out, or I hand wrote it and he told it to me. And so let me read you this poem that the Amish Germans, who are very hardworking people, this is what they believe. Let me find, actually, it's not on my Facebook. It is on in my images here. So it's a poem. I'm going to read it to you in German. I want you to understand the power that this has in light of what this book says about exhaustion. If you've read the book that I recommend, which is called No Hero, remember what The One Thing by Gary Keller? He talks about this very thing. He says that at a certain level, it's kind of like fuel in an engine. You will get tired and run out of fuel if all you're relying on is willpower. Let me show you this little poem here. I wrote it on this. I don't know if you can see that. We'll zoom in. I wrote this in a log cabin with an old Amish guy, 60-year-old Amish guy, reading to me the German. So it says in German, a lot of you, I know I've got quite a few people from Germany on these calls. We're about 40 countries, so you'll understand this. My German accent's bad, but it says, Fresh aus Werk und sau mich nicht. Arbeit ich die erste Pflicht. Fange du nur mutig an, frisch gewagt, ich halb getan. So here's what that translates into, and you'll see. The first step in you no longer purely relying on raw willpower to change your life is understanding this poem. Fresh to work and don't delay. Work is your first duty. Start with zeal. Freshly dared is half done. Let me make that in even more common English because that sounds kind of crazy. When you have something hard to do it first thing, and the next thing you know, it's almost done. Or when you have something hard to do, just dive into it first thing. That's why they say freshly dared. Frisch, it means like early in the morning. Do it. And the next thing you know, it's halfway done. So if you're trying to, let's say, write a book, I learned from Joel Salatin, he's written about 10 or 11 top-selling books. And I'm always like, wow, you know, why am I not like that? Maybe you had an idea for an invention, a copyright, writing a book. I mean, lots of people want to write their story. I'm sure you have a unique story. Why can we not make that change to that person who's like Joel Salatin? Well, I'll tell you Joel Salatin's trick. I saw it when I was 19 years old. When he decided, like Gary Keller said, what was the most important thing? You can't change everything all at once. That's why the average millionaire takes 12 to 20 years, because you need multiple changes and you can't do them all at once. But he would focus on that one big thing that he wanted to do, which is a book. Okay? And guess what? 5 in the morning, I would hear him, and he would write on his little, he didn't even use a computer, okay? He would just write for, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Fresh gewagt, meaning his brain had recharged and he knocked it out early. The Rock, the bodybuilder, he starts, let's move this light a little bit down so it's not so much glare there. If you move it a little bit, tweak it. Zach sometimes moved it a little bit. Trying to get this, it might be the other light. Anyway, so The Rock, the bodybuilder, he wakes up at 4 in the morning and he does cardio for about 45 minutes, 4 to 4:45. Then he makes breakfast, he eats breakfast, 5 to whatever, 5:30, and then he works out. So by 7 in the morning, the most important thing to him, and remember, we're not The Rock, we don't have to be, 250 pounds of muscle like him, because that's not our career, but he just knocks it out early. Before exhaustion, mentally. You're not allowed to have willpower exhaustion in this program. So what does that mean? That means I want you, and I'm summarizing some of this book, and I'm adding some of my own. You can read the book on your own to get their exact things, but part of the reason you're in this program is we're going to combine the great thoughts from many thinkers. So what you want to do here, as Gary Keller says in The One Thing, okay, to avoid exhaustion, I want you to pick the biggest bang for the buck. So instead of you saying, oh, Ty, I'm going to learn to get mentally in shape by reading 2 books a month, by reading more. Simultaneously, I'm going to get a 6-pack, ripped abs, and lose 20 pounds. Simultaneously, I'm going to launch a huge new business. Simultaneously, I'm going to learn how to meditate. So you're maybe going to attack health, wealth, love, and happiness all at once, 4 things at once. I want you to try and experiment. And there's good science behind that German poem. There's good science behind what the Heath brothers are talking about. Try to change one main thing at a time. Okay? One main thing, and the second thing, do it first. You know, I do some business consulting, some really cool entrepreneurs, and one of the guys that I've consulted for makes a lot of money. He's not even 30 years old. We're talking a guy making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, a month, hundreds of thousands of net, not gross, net profit every month. He's not even 30. One of the things I thought was interesting, you know, he writes a newsletter. He has different ways he makes money, but he's kind of in the education business. He says, Ty, right when I wake up, I don't even get out of bed. I flip up my laptop. He drinks a drink. Let me get my drink. He drinks a shake. This is my green shake that I drink. It's made up of horrible spinach and stuff, but superfood whey. It's not too bad, but he does that first. And you know what? He writes 1,000, 1,100 word essay, and he's done by the time he gets out of bed because he doesn't get out of bed. Fresh gewagt, that's the German word. Freshly started. Those are the two things. But to understand, you can't do freshly everything at once. The good thing is you have tremendous resiliency in your body, for example. So you don't always have to be training physically to cut your body fat down to 6% if you're a guy, or 8% or 10%. Or if you're a woman, 20%, whatever lean is healthy for your body type. But you can, maybe work out a little bit less and focus on what I call the six-pack of the mind. That might be something you need to do. Okay? One area. So if we say there's 4 main areas: health, wealth, love, happiness. That doesn't mean, don't confuse this, that you have to completely ignore. So if you're in a phase where you're like, you know what, my business is going pretty well, my family, my love life's good, I'm feeling pretty good, but my body's falling apart, then focus on one thing, that one at a massive level, and just do that one thing first. Now, during the rest of the day, if you have some willpower remaining, of course, you're going to keep your business and income and career going. You're going to still focus on friends, family, and romance. You're going to still, focus on being happy and doing things. But you're going to give the big burst of energy and willpower that you have into this. They've done interesting scientific studies. There was a study of willpower. There's different ones that I found interesting. One was where they let people into a room where there was cookies. I may be butchering how this goes, but this is something like this. So they put people in a room and they said, wait here, don't eat any of the cookies. So people had to resist the cookies. Then they put a wallet in there with money. Okay? And guess what? When people were spending all their energy withstanding the cookie temptation, they were more likely to steal from the wallet. But if they put people in a room where there was broccoli and they said don't eat the broccoli, most of us don't have any willpower issues overcoming broccoli, then people had more willpower to not steal the money. Isn't that fascinating? The exhaustion of willpower. Once you begin to understand that it's not only character traits, because a lot of us beat ourselves up. It's like, oh, if I just had more character, if I had more courage. And there is some truth to the need for character, but even more so. Focus on one big area. And I call this, so I want you to do something that I call weak link training or weak link examination, okay? Weak link. I coined this many years ago in business when I was training people who worked for me. So think about the story of Achilles. He was this warrior in mythology. He had armor on, but he forgot armor in one little area down here by his foot. And as you can guess, kind of like the, what do they call it? What Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong, or what can happen. And then the arrow came and it didn't hit him in the armor. It probably did, but it bounced off, so he didn't notice it. But one arrow hit him in the foot, and that was the end and the moral of that story. So what's your biggest weak link right now, okay? Is it health? What does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul and lose his body? I know a guy, billions of dollars in his bank account, but he's so overweight, he can't get out of bed. If he would practice weak link training, he doesn't need to try to make more money. Money's already good. The problem with him is he's going to die before he can spend it. He's going to violate what Steve Jobs said. I didn't want to be the richest man in the graveyard. He's going to be one of the richest men in the graveyard. Now, I'm not making fun of him. I'm saying if he followed weak link training, he would say, my great weakness is health. But maybe, I know some of you are in great physical health, but your bank account is in tatters, or your love life, or you're like my friend who makes millions but says, I wake up every day angry and unhappy and I can't figure out why. Which is your weak link? So I want you to put a comment, because I like to make these interactive. What is your weak link? And try to be specific. So if you identify health, what in your health? Is your cardio not good? Do you have no muscle? You know, do you have too much body fat? Are you too skinny? So be specific. If it's wealth, it's like, what's the weak link of wealth? Is it you don't get paid enough? Is it you hate what you're doing? It can be different things. Is it you can't get this one new product launch that you want? You can't acquire a new customer? If it's love, what area of love? Is it friendship with platonic friends? Is it family friendship? You know, that brother, sister, mother, you know, your friends there? Is it love and romance that's your weakness? If it's happiness, what are you not happy about? Do you feel depressed because you wish you had done more in life? Do you feel like you lost out? You're too old? Do you feel like you're too young with no potential? What is the thing? So I'm gonna set my timer here to 60 seconds. Remember, the goal of these, it seems a teeny bit cheesy, but it's not. I want this to be interactive, okay? So I'm gonna set my timer here to 60 seconds. Right below this video, remember, this is not something I post publicly, that you're in this private group. I want you to go ahead and take 60 seconds. Tell me what your weak link is. I'm setting my timer. Here we go. Hand me a pen. Okay. Brandon, bring me the iPad. I'm going to put mine. I'm going to tell you mine too. Remember, think deeply on this stuff. Give you a few more seconds here. Make sure you put deep thought into this, guys. Deep thought. It's important. What's your biggest weak link? Be specific. Read what other people are writing below. I'm going to start reading some of these. All right, let's read some. Somebody says, wealth, I'm in debt from college, low income job. Time my weakest link is dealing with growing pains and mismanagement. So you've got your own business. I get stuff done, so it's good enough, and I come back later. My business went from $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month, and now it's at $60,000 a month in only a matter of months. But I don't have the experience. I'm only 19 years old. Congratulations. $60,000 a month, Matt. So you've got a good problem, but you must deal with that. That's a weak link. So I love relationship-wise, but this is only because I'm putting off getting into a relationship until I have my business figured out. Love, I'm in an unstable relationship. My biggest weak link is negative self-illusion. Happiness, I'm a college senior. Not knowing what to do. I have to take a job to pay off loans. Never making that mistake again. I have to make a decision on potentially attending neuroscience graduate school. My weak link is staying connected to friends. Broke, debt, no job, single. Wealth, it's hard for me to put my business into another level. My weak link is business, making enough money to where I can draw a salary. It's It's been 7 years and you're not there. Okay. Have customers but need a few per month. My weak link is inability to focus. Awesome. You know, this really, my weak link is business, making enough money where I can draw. Oh, sorry. I read that already. Okay. Focusing on one thing at a time. Willpower. Okay. My one is wealth, and I don't think because I do what I don't necessarily like. Now I even work less days so that I could read more, get more knowledge. I don't feel like getting up and going to work. I think the business problem is that I'm good at it, and the money isn't bad. So you feel trapped. There's a lot here. So we see some themes. Money, of course, is a big one. So here's the thing. For me, in health, wealth, love, and happiness, I constantly am kind of moving around. So right now, I'm focused on not weak link per se, but you could call it weak link in the different businesses I have. I look at the ones that I see the most growth potential in the shortest period of time. And so I'm really growing this book of the day thing, as you might have seen. So that's the one thing that I'm focused on, because some of the other businesses are going kind of on autopilot and they go on their own, and they've got people running them, and now it's the weakest link that needs the most of my attention, of course, is things like this TV show, this program that you're in, getting the book of the day summaries out as close to every day as I can to help, there's about 1.4 million people that those reach. And so that's my one focus. And so I'm just literally I'm practicing what I preach. This morning, before I got out of bed, I like to copy what works for other people. I just wrote right before I got out of bed. Before I got on that TV show, I wasn't sleeping. I was just in bed, writing, getting that done. I like to read first thing. Now that's for me, I'm in the book business, so knocking that out. Okay, so you see, for each of you, what you have to now do is break it down simplistically enough. Think of it this way. I'm going to give you guys that want to make money, I'm going to show you something cool. It's a little mental trick you can play on yourself. You want to learn to make $1 million? Learn to play this game with yourself. It won't work overnight. I'm not about get-rich-quick schemes. Anything that works fast will probably fail fast. Never forget that, as the Amish say. The farmer said, fence that goes up fast falls down fast, but build a fence slowly and it'll stay up for a long, long time. So, but here's a trick that'll get you building a fence the right way, get you building your income the right way. Let's just say your goal is to get to $1 million a year gross revenue in your business, okay? So what's the first thing we want to do? This is kind of in this book, and this is kind of, I use the books as kind of a springboard. So you can get book summaries anywhere, but you can't get this anywhere. So that's why I focus on what uniquely, hopefully, I can offer to you, and it's some insight that I have from my mentors and my experience. So let's say that, everybody loves this number, 1 million. Let's just say gross. Net is a hard number because it depends on your tax rate and the deductions you're taking and your profit margins and so on, cost of goods. But let's just say you want $1 million. So the problem with $1 million is it's too big. Literally, it's big. It takes up 7 numbers on the board. We got to get this smaller. So how much is that? Let's break it down into 12. 12 is smaller than $1 million. Now this is going to sound cheesy. It's not cheesy. If you don't believe me, try it and watch what happens. So now that's $80,000 a month, roughly. It's not exactly, but let's just say roughly $80,000 a month equals around $1 million bucks. Next, that's still too big. Let's shrink that by 30 days. How much money do you have to make per day to make $80,000 a month? Now, I like to round up roughly, so I'm just going to say you have to make $3,000 a day. It's a little more than 80, but that's okay. That'll get you a little closer to this, okay? So $3,000. Now, $3,000 a day is not as scary as $1 million. So if you need to make I think of my business literally. I've got my computer programmers My businesses send me hourly reports because I don't even like daily. I like hourly. So if I need to make $3,000 an hour, and I have businesses that are, of course, 24 hours, they're internet, how much do I need to make, right? How much do I need to make an hour? Now it's not so scary, right? Now, you see, if it's a 24-hour day, I only have to make $100 to $150 an hour. Now, if I had a business where I'm only open 8 hours a day, okay, like some of you have service businesses or so on, you know, it's 8 into 30, right? It's roughly $300 an hour, right? I'm sorry, $400 an hour, right? $400 an hour. Now you break it down even more. How much does my average customer make me? So if you know your average customer that you close makes you $400, then you just go 1. So that becomes the number you focus on and fixate on. Every hour I have to close 1 customer. And now here's where the key comes in, because you might have thought of this before, you might have heard this before, but you haven't heard what I'm about to say. Now, every one of this is the war, I call it. By the way, I hope all of you who are in this program, who are in business or thinking of being an entrepreneur, I hope you also join up and invest a little more in yourself. Remember, in yourself, not invest in me, by joining the Entrepreneur Lifestyle, the academy I have, the mini MBA. I'll talk about that a little later. I might give a few scholarships some people are asking. And I teach this in there much more in depth. But this is this has allowed me to basically, any business I've ever started has become a high revenue business. You know, the average person can never get to $1 million. But I have no problem, not because I'm so smart or special, it's not. It's because I know the formula, because the formulas were given to me by great mentors, by now experience and business partners, you know, friends making $1 million a day. They've shown me those things, and I pass them on to people in the business academy. This what you're in now is we're about life in general. It's not just business. If you're want to focus really on the wealth, get in the business mini MBA. But this is the war, $1 million. Never try to fight a war. Never try to fight a war. You will always lose a war, because going back to what we talked about before, to win a war takes willpower, and willpower gets exhausted. No, what you try to do is, what's the teeniest battle that I can win? So for me, I'll either usually do it at this level, or I'll do it like at the hourly level. I sometimes do it at the daily. So if I'm trying to build a business, I'm just like, that's the battle. Here's the deal with business. If every day you win the battle, at the end, the war gets won on its own. You don't have to win wars, but you have to go insane if you start losing a battle. The second, and I put this on my Facebook and Instagram, enough is enough and now is enough. The second you go, wait a second, I have to make $3,000 today. Today, Tuesday, wait, I only made $2,200. Then you go into crisis alert mode. You expend all of your willpower that next morning going, what in the world is wrong? Then you begin to practice what Jeff Bezos talked about. Where's that book I have? Try to find it. I've got too many books here these days. In the Everything Store, he says, you must innovate out. So once this book, I recommend this. We go through this one in the business program. If you get access to that today, you can watch the replay I did. Very important. So here, okay, the war goes out of your mind. You no longer think about the war. You only think about the battle, and you go nuts when you lose a battle, because you start losing. It's okay if out of a 7-day week your goal is 3,000 a day and you hit, you know, one day you hit 2,000, because maybe the next day you hit 4,000. But I'll tell you what, if you get too lackadaisical, the next thing you know, you're broke. Same thing with health. Look, set a realistic time frame. You want to cut weight? I can tell you how to cut weight every time. You go every week. Let's say your goal, you want to lose 30 pounds, right? Divide that by 18 months. 18 months, according to Peter F. Drucker, is the ideal time frame to make important changes in your life. For wealth, same thing. So you want to lose 30 pounds, now you just do it over 18 months. What's 18 into 30? You know, roughly 1.5, right? Maybe 2. So all you got to do, if you want to, oh no, sorry, yeah, over 18, yeah, let's just say 2 pounds. That'll get you losing 36 pounds. All you got to do is go, okay, reduce the goal. It's too big. That's a war. I never fight wars. 36 pounds is a war. I'm going to drop it to divide it by 18 months. Make sure you set realistic time frames. Remember, when you're playing poker and you don't know who the sucker in the room is, you're the sucker. If you're buying things that tell you you're going to cut weight permanently really fast, every doctor, every scientist, every smart person not trying to sell you something says you're a sucker. So don't be a sucker. When enough smart people say don't do something, try to get rich quick, or don't try to lose weight too quick, listen. Why not? Richard Dawkins says your mind is a simulation machine. Make sure you simulate the future. So 36, that's the war, 36 pounds of loss divided by 18 months. Now all you have, you've shrunk the problem into a 2 pounds. And I know, sorry for all of you not in the US, it's 1 kilo. So if your goal is to lose, I don't know, 15 kilos, then you divide by 18 months, you're at, 1 kilo or 2 pounds, okay? So then you can even divide that weekly. Get the number smaller, divide it by 4 weeks. Boom, 0.5 pounds a week. Do you know how easy it is to lose half a pound a week? Like, you don't have to do that much. Then what you do is I said weak link training, shrink the weak link. That's the battle. Boom. Get a scale, okay? And if you don't go down half a pound, now you probably should measure yourself, make sure you measure yourself at the same time of the day. Probably want to measure your waist too. Not weight isn't the only thing. You probably should, if you want to lose a couple inches off your waist. But I'm just doing this for example. Boom, then when you don't lose a half a pound, I recommend weigh yourself, a couple times in the week to get the average. If you're not averaging half a pound a week, go crazy. Like, announce on your Facebook, guys, I'm failing. Whatever you have to do, get a personal trainer, spend money, experiment, innovate your way out. Every one of us, you and me, do not have, according to Sigmund Freud in Civilization is Discontents, we don't have the same constitution. You might be motivated by not wanting to be embarrassed, so you need to post your maybe an INFJ. If you look at the Myers-Briggs personality test, I's, introverts, are oftentimes motivated more than you think by competition. There's a good book, Poe Bronson, called Top Dog, and he says introverts are often more motivated by competition. So maybe you need a competition. Maybe you need to put $1,000 in a bank account and say, if I don't lose half a pound a week, I'm gonna give $1,000 away. I'm gonna lose $1,000. Maybe you're a materialistic and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you're more money motivated. Maybe you're more social. You need a buddy. So you say, listen, I need you. If I'm not losing half a pound, I need you to come over and slap me in the face. Maybe some of you don't need any of that. Maybe some of you just need the goal shrunk. Whatever it is, don't use another person's motivation techniques completely. Learn from the best, but tailor it like a special concoction of, let's say you're sick and the doctor gives you a special concoction, especially suited to you, of antibiotics, right? You need a special concoction. But now, you know how easy it is to lose half a pound a week? I'm telling you, it's the easiest thing. Losing 36 pounds isn't so easy. A lot of people try, they lose 10 and they yo-yo up. I've tried this on myself. If you're trying to gain muscle, you want to be stronger, you don't want to put 36. You're not going to gain, 15 pounds of muscle in 18 months, but, put a realistic goal. If you even gain 5 pounds of real muscle in 18 months, you'll look different to people. 5 pounds of muscle is noticeable. So you divide 5 by, 18 and you're hardly, that's almost a minuscule amount of muscle, right? A third of a pound or something like that of muscle a month, right? Oh, sorry. No, less than that. Even less. You hardly have to gain any muscle. okay? So for you, shrink the problem. It's so important. Some of you, you're not happy. Like somebody said, you're depressed. Well, try this. Try to be happy for 5 minutes in a day. Now, we'll get to the next part of this book that's interesting. So he's talking here about, let me grab, where did I put my notes, my phone? Oh, so he's talking about one of the hardest changes that any psychologist ever has to deal with. Child abusers, people who are violent to their own children. Now, this seems like the worst, it's one of the worst crimes there is, and it is. And so these psychologists that have to deal with people that most people say it's impossible to fix. Okay? Very hard to fix somebody once they're, in this horrible place where they're hitting their own kids. But this one scientist, one group found a way that they couldn't perfectly change everybody. But they created something called PCIT for child abuser, for people who are, specifically, they're talking about people who hit their kids, little kids, right? It's called parent-child interaction therapy. So it says they try to disrupt the escalating cycles of coercion and frustration that characterize abusive situations. So here's what they do. Now, hopefully this is not an issue anybody is dealing with, but we can take the principles of this and apply it to making more money, to fixing our health, love life, all that. So the first step that they say, they're given an assignment. We want you to play with your children 5 minutes a day. Here are the rules. You're going to devote 100% of your attention to them. You're not going to answer the phone. You're not going to teach them anything. You're just going to enjoy them. The parents are incredulous that 5 minutes will accomplish anything. For goodness sake, I spend every minute of every day with this child. But they say, just spend 5 minutes enjoying. Now, you'll see why. There's a reason they want these people, parents, these abusive parents doing this. During the play session, a therapist watches the parent through a one-way mirror and gives real-time coaching to the abusive parent. Funderburk, the name of it, says, this is what typically happens. The parent and child might start coloring. The parent tries to play along by coloring on the child's paper. The child objects, so we tell the parent, okay, get a set. They're speaking to him in a one-way mirror. Okay, get a separate piece of paper and imitate what the child's doing. If the child's doing a rainbow, you do a rainbow. Okay? And some kids, if they're particularly opposed, they're not getting along, might reach over and grab the parent's green crayon yelling, I want that. And we teach the parents to say, okay, I'd be happy to share it with you. Okay? We try to get the parents to be flexible. Whatever the child is doing, the parent offers no resistance. It says, interesting, an abusive parent typically finds the 5 minutes utterly exhausting. Remember I was talking about willpower? So the therapist put the parents in a position to see what exhausts the willpower. Okay? Now, you're going to see why. They're beginning to show you, okay? They're beginning in a 5-minute session only. Remember I talked about shrinking the battle? Instead of saying we're going to try to focus on the 8 hours, we're going, how can this parent just get along with this kid without being abusive for 5 minutes? Shrink the problem. If you have a problem working out, okay, he says here very clearly, it's very interesting. He says, parents are taught skills that feel unnatural at first. They are taught to look for opportunities. The more instinctive a behavior of abuse the parents have, the less self-control from their brain, and the more sustainable it becomes. So the problem for you, my friend, and the problem for me, is whatever is hard for us, it's simply because it's not yet instinctual. You know why Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is a fascinating thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know why Arnold Schwarzenegger was able to do what probably every guy wishes. There's not a guy I've ever met that doesn't wish that at least for a day they could be Arnold Schwarzenegger. be this big, strong guy walking in and everybody's like, look at that guy, he's got so much muscles. If you're a woman, maybe that's your dream too, or maybe you had a different, women tend to not want to be huge bodybuilders, but there's exceptions. I actually know a woman who's the world's strongest, Becca Swanson, a friend of mine. She moved to England, she used to live here in Hollywood, the world's strongest woman. So she could bench press, I think, 400 or 500 pounds. A very strong woman. So I don't want to be sexist, but let's just go with this common theme in the world. If you're a woman, whatever your dream would be, you know, to be the most in shape, perfect body, whatever. I know this is a little sexist, and sorry. I'm just trying to give an example here, okay? Or vice versa. We'll just say it that way, to not be sexist. Okay, that's your dream. Why did Arnold Schwarzenegger pull it off? Why did Jillian Michaels, you know, the great health enthusiast, why did she do it and not me and you? Why did Peter Thiel, who I was talking about earlier on my TV show, why did he make $1 billion in the same world that you and I lived in? Why didn't we do it? Well, because it was more instinctual for them. But why is it instinctual for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who would work out 6 hours a day? I don't work out 6 hours a day because I get bored and doesn't feel instinctual. Just like these abusive parents, it didn't feel instinctual to bend and be collaborative with their kids. No, they got violent with their kids. So what the PCIT training said, let's change the instincts. But can we just change it for 5 minutes? So, you know, one of the things that I'm working with one of the top celebrity trainers is a 5-minute workout that you do consistently. You know, if you're in the 67 step that I created, the 67-day challenge, it's because we know scientifically, University College London says takes on average, the average person 66 days to form new habits, otherwise known as new instincts. So if you it's better to spend 5 minutes a day working out for 66 or 67 days in the gym than it is to spend 1 day doing 8 hours. You need not only volume of weight, mentally, physically, socially, you also need consistency. That's why I said shrink it. When you're fresh gewacht, early in the morning, spend 5 minutes. You don't have to be like The Rock. When you wake up tomorrow, if you're too skinny, male or female, put some weights right by your bed. When you get out of bed, you know, shake your head and lift, curl for 5 minutes. But don't just do it tomorrow. Do it for 66 days, for 5 minutes. If that's too much, do it for 1 minute. I don't care. What we're trying to do and what they were trying to do with these abusive parents is change the neural networks, synapses, all those complicated things that we hardly understand in the brain, and change instinct. You can't go off willpower and you can't go off your gut. She goes on to say, also, and this is the next thing, okay? It's interesting. She says, in my experience, the physically abusive parent has the same goals as a normal parent. It's just their method and ideas that are wrong. They think that their child is annoying because they told the 3-year-old to play and he wandered off, and they didn't understand that the 3-year-old might forget instructions. So they might have to punish the child for their own good. That's what they think. So most abusive people, we could say, in a sense, most failures in health, wealth, love, and happiness, they have the same goals as Arnold Schwarzenegger. How many of us wouldn't like to be able to walk in a room as a man and be the biggest guy in the room? I have a bodyguard guy who works the doors at my parties and sometimes goes out if I have celebrities or special people in town. His name's Rome. He used to bodyguard for Kim Kardashian, and he's a big guy. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. He has 23-inch biceps, which is bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. And great athlete, just a massive human being. His hands are literally about the size of your head. He could like pick you up by your head. And I was talking to him, and I said, Rome, how much weight can you lift? And he said, well, I used to lift about, I think he said 550. I used to bench press 550 pounds. He said, you know, Tom, I'm getting a little older now. I can only do about 480 right now. But I said, Rome, you know, how'd you start out? And he said, with just a bar and a little bit of weight. Even a guy like that, it was 1 minute to 5 minutes. He shrunk the war into a battle Don't go in there thinking you're going to lift 550 pounds. And I asked him one time, Rome, what's it feel like to walk into a bar or a club or a cafe or a room and you're the biggest guy in the room? And he said, it feels pretty good, Ty. And in the same way, if you can pull off the goal where everybody else, like these abusive parents, they have the goals, but they're frustrated and can't get there. If you can be the one like Rome or like Arnold Schwarzenegger or like Peter Thiel or like Mother Teresa or Gandhi or all these people who can look back and say, yeah, it feels pretty good to do what everybody else says they dream about. Shrink the problem, change the instinct through 66 days, right? The other time frame beyond 66 days is the one Peter Drucker talks about, 18 months. Those are the two important time frames. That's not in this book, but I want you to know that. 18 months. I want you to, everything worth doing, I want you to do first for 66, or I changed it. I add one for good luck. That's why I came up with 67. So everything important is 67 days. And everything, once you do it for 67 days, move to 18 months. The amount of books you read, the amount of weight. So first you need to lose some weight, shrink the problem, not into a war, but divide it by 67 days. Or in this case, that's roughly 8 weeks. You want to lose, 8 pounds in 67 days. Set an even more realistic goal. So lose 4 pounds in 67 days. That's half a pound a week. Then move to the next one. Maybe you want to lose, 30 pounds. Then it's still half a pound a week. You'll have ingrained the habit. You want to, someone was putting in there, I have a problem growing my business and executing. Well, you can, like you said, you may be growing a little too fast. Now, you don't want to shut it off if you're growing fast, but be careful, because if you're not careful, you grow too fast and you fall, everything falls apart and you end up with nothing. Somebody said the stream isn't running. Some of you, depending on where you are in the world, if you're getting some buffering, don't worry. We will have the ability for you to, go ahead and watch a replay. Ben, you have everything off except on the stream? Yeah, okay. How would you suggest we avoid cravings in terms of the 5-minute breakdown? Do we then eat less of something, chocolates, every day for 66 days until it reaches 0? Well, okay. Let's say you're gaining weight because of chocolate. Well, what you try to do, don't just fixate on the chocolate. See if you can cut something else out first. Keep eating the chocolate and see if you can pull off the half a pound weight loss. It might not be just the chocolate. So shrink the problem to an easier problem, okay? I saw a documentary about powerlifters that had her. She was a pioneer for strength women. Dude, yes, Becca Swanson. That's why I say I don't like to stereotype too much, because she's a woman stronger than any man I've ever met. Someone said, I worked with abusive children. I had to watch the parents interact with their child with play therapy. We had to form a bond. Yeah, just like this book talks about. How do you deal with family members that have a consumer mindset? Not only do they... Oops, I just lost that one. I'll come back to that. Would you say it would be best to take a test earlier in the day rather than later? Yeah, exactly. If you can take a test early in the morning, now that assumes you got a good night's sleep, but in general, you have to know yourself. It's not always mornings for people, just so you know that. Even though I say I like to do some things first when I wake up, there's other things I've found I am the most fresh at late at night when it's quiet. So you have to know yourself, okay? Don't always assume. My dad was a top bodybuilder in the world, and he never worked out in the morning, and he was still Mr. US, Junior USA, Mr. Canada, Mr. New York, Mr. Puerto Rico. He pulled off a lot of, he wasn't as good as Arnold Schwarzenegger, but, he knew himself. All right. I want to keep going here. Oh, how do we deal with family members that have a consumer mindset? Not only do they not support what I'm doing, but they think I'm cocky and arrogant. Well, just make sure you're not cocky and arrogant. That one's pretty easy. Shrink that problem down to that big. If Just be super humble about what you learn. Be overtly humble. Say, I don't know if you know everything, but I'm excited about learning from great people. No one's going to get mad at you for that. And at the end of the day, don't completely worry about what everybody believes. Know what you're doing, make sense, and then just be logical about it. But of course, be aware enough that you want allies in life. You don't want everybody to think you're crazy. Ty, really resonated what you said about tailoring your motivation. What references could you recommend for ideas like these, like Myers-Briggs? So yeah, everybody here, go to Human Metrics is a great place to know yourself. Human Metrics, you can just Google it. It's a free website. I don't own it. I wish I did. I've thought of buying this website or making a similar one. And you can just they have this Myers-Briggs test. Make sure you're in the Myers-Briggs, or you've done the Myers-Briggs. It's 72 questions. It takes 10 minutes. If you're not willing to invest 10 minutes, just remember, if you're not willing to be an investor in yourself, nothing that I'm talking about will help you. It'll just be in your head, and you'll have book smarts, but you won't have any benefit. You got to be willing to invest. So make sure you invest 10 minutes. Make sure you invest money in yourself. Make sure you invest. Be an investor. More questions here. If for whatever reason I didn't see your question at the bottom, repaste it at the top because we got 129. How do I deal with losing my friends because I'm doing the programs? They don't like that I'm following your programs. Well, I've had several different people ask this. So, if you have friends that don't like what you're doing, there's two potential issues. One is they could be bad friends and you should get rid of them, but not always. Number two, maybe you have to ease into it slowly with them. Sometimes I tell people, we have all had somebody that is lifting weights and then they start telling everybody they know to lift weights. I had a friend like that. My friend, he started lifting weights and everybody he met, he would say, you better start lifting weights. And I said, look, man, I told him, why don't you lift weights for a year or two and then just lead by example. You don't even have to tell people what you're doing. Voltaire said it's not enough to always conquer. Sometimes you have to seduce people. So if you have family members or friends that are giving you resistance, several of you said that, just lead by example. Don't even tell them what you're doing. Just let them see the result. One day they'll come to you and say, what made you have this result? Then you can tell them. Someone said, when are you going to get to the internship program? We'll announce that next year. I'm pretty busy, so it's coming, but not sure of a date. In addition to shrinking the problem to one small issue and do your toughest challenge when you have the most willpower, i.e., after sugar, early in the morning. Can you build a business that will free you from your day job and improve your body while at the same time working a full-time job? Yes, but you need to have one primary one you're working on and a secondary and a third. Most of the energy must go into your primary. Someone says, how much did the green belt and the business stuff cost? I'll talk about that in a few minutes. My one thing is to play the guitar and sing. I have a band and we're doing more gigs. How can I turn that into a business and gain income in the long run? Okay, I don't just talk about business in this call, but I'm going to do it. I like to talk about health, wealth, love, and happiness. I have the business program. All of you wanting to do that, come into the business program. I'm going to give some partial scholarships in a few minutes, but let me answer that question real quick. So let's say you play the guitar or whatever. So we're going to apply what we learned today by shrinking the problem. So what you're saying is, how can I quit my job? How can I make a full-time living? So full-time living, let's say, is $75,000 minimum, according to Nobel Prize winning researchers like Daniel Kahneman. So let's say that's full-time for you. Obviously, you'd love to make more, but that's the war. It's too complicated to win a war. Some of you are saying, how can I quit my day job? That's too big of a war. 18 months from now, maybe you could get that. Maybe you need 18 months. Maybe it's 36 months. I don't know. Depends on your personality and how much momentum you have. But what you do is very simple. Break it down into battles. And you know what the battle for every business person is, whether you work for yourself or other people. Remember, what is Peter Drucker, the greatest business teacher of our time, what does he say the purpose of all business is? Anybody know? If you've been on some of my seminars, you might know. You can put it below if you know the answer. What is the purpose of a business, of your career? What is the purpose? Put that below. I'm going to give you. If you already know the answer because you've heard my seminar, you can still put it, but you're cheating a little bit, but that's okay. What is it? Let's see. Anybody brave enough to venture that question, the answer to that question? Yes, I see somebody answering with the Drucker. So you might have heard it or read Drucker yourself. So the point is to create a customer. One customer at a time. So my question to you is, while you have another job, while you're an artist and maybe not making money doing what you love yet, how do you shrink the problem from 75 to just the simplest thing? Because I promise you, if you can create one customer, you can create two. Maybe start with a family member or friend, but it really counts when the customer is a stranger. So you can start with people who love you and friends, but that's the real test is when you get one stranger to be a customer. That's a lot easier than you trying to quit your job and make 75 grand. So over the next 66 or 67 days, create one customer. You can create customers by giving them deep discounts. If you got a band, get somebody to give you $10 to play all night at their party. $10. The point of the first customer is just a stranger paying you money. Once you can get $10 from one stranger, you can get $20 from another one. And you ramp it up, and the next thing you know, given enough time, patience, and focus, you will be making more money than you ever would have been if you started out with an overwhelming war. That is the answer. It's in this book, Shrinking the Problem, not using only willpower, getting it done early, focus. Let's see. I'll talk about one other point, then I'm going to talk about a few other things, take more questions. Yeah, interesting, because I want you to know that knowledge does not change behavior. We have all encountered crazy psychologists, obese doctors, and divorced marriage counselors. Isn't that a funny quote from this book? Knowledge alone, and I think that this is one, I'm going to give you what I think is a better way or more complete way to understand this. The Dalai Lama spoke. So he just says, think about that. You and I both know medical doctors who have all the book knowledge, decades of book knowledge in their head. I know doctors who smoke, believe it or not, even though they're the ones who say you shouldn't smoke. I know tons of overweight doctors. So if knowledge alone worked, there would be only healthy doctors and there would never be a divorced therapist. But I'm going to show you what I think is a better way to understand this. I like these pyramids. So the Dalai Lama explained this even better than this book does by saying, he wrote a book called Beyond Religion. There's 1, 2, 3. 1 is hearing. 2 is comprehending. So when you talk about a doctor who's overweight or a doctor who's smoking, he or she has heard that smoking is bad. And the doctor comprehends that smoking is bad for them. But there is not much benefit to your life from being 1 or 2. It's only when it's instinctual. That's what the Dalai Lama says. And believe it or not, that's actually what this book says. It has to become instinct. So for you, how do things become instinct? So you're reading books, hopefully more and more. You're listening to podcasts, YouTubes, you're going to seminars, you're on this live call with me, maybe you're showing up at my TV show, you're hearing. I want to make sure, of course, that you think about these things. That's why I make you write comments below. It's not because I want comments. No, I don't need the comments. They actually make it more confusing because I got to stop my train of thought. But this isn't about me, so I do them anyway. That's why writing down notes, teaching other people, like re-speaking it. But what you want to be is like Michael Jordan. See, at the end, when the rubber hits the road, when you have to score the big goal, in basketball, in football, in soccer, baseball. If it's not instinct, if you have to think about it, you will fail. All great athletes, and there's a lot of lessons. I wrote about the book Diet Cults. If you read in the Diet Cults book, it was in my book of the day summary I sent out by email. You might have gotten it recently. And I said, he says you should learn from top athletes the best diet because the competition, the fierce competition gives you a lot of insight into how the world really works. So we can apply that not just to your diet, but we can apply it to, how to make $1 million and all these things. If you look at a guy like George Soros, he's one of the greatest investors of all time. He's like Warren Buffett. He's one of the wealthiest people in the world. Okay, you're talking many. He made $1 billion in one day. That's kind of his claim to fame. And he says it's instinct. He gets a gut feeling as to what he should invest in. And he did an arbitrage. He does arbitrage plays, which is a type of, trading quick. Before hedge funds were doing this, he was one of the first guys. And he made $1 billion overnight. And he said, now understand one thing, a lot of people want to start at instinctual. You can't. You got to start with the book knowledge. That's what this is. You have to start with some contemplation. That's what this is. But you only want book knowledge if it moves you up a notch. And you only want to contemplate because a lot of people like meditate and think deeply and, talk to their friends about ideas, but it's only the reward is only here. I hope over the next 67 days, I hope you work with me for the next 18 months and I have people work with me 18 months and then come back another 18 months. I hope the whole goal of everything we're doing is that when it comes to making money, you're like George Soros. You start out with some book learning, you start out with some mentorships, internships, coaching, you go to seminars, you begin to contemplate them, but then it becomes instinctual. So when a business deal comes up, you know whether to say yes or no. Because some of the best deals to you will come like that. When an opportunity comes up, you see a product you could buy. I had an opportunity. This year I bought 2 new businesses. I buy businesses and one came up. It was in July, the end of July. I had a week or 2 to decide. And I didn't have time to just use book knowledge or my level 1 or level 2. So you know what I did? I instinctually made a decision. But it was built upon years of mentorships. I've had 5 different mentors, 12 business partners and advisors that I have today. It's built upon the contemplation I've done, thinking, meditating on these business ideas. And in the moment, I made an instinctual idea. And I made 10 times the money that I put in. Okay? It's not because I'm so great. It's because I'm following what the Dalai Lama says. And you can be that too. Instinctual. And you can make more than 10 times your money. You can do the same thing. It's not enough to just know what the right diet is and think about it and experiment. Experimentation also comes in this phase. Contemplation, and you do a lot of experiments here. Some fail. But then eventually you got a powerful gut and you don't have to think about it. I want all of you to be there in every area. But I don't want you to be there overnight because that's too big of a war. But you know what? As Charlie Munger says, this kind of stuff helps if you're going to live a long time. And most of us, we don't know how long, but the odds are you can be living you got a lot of years here. So get this right. Okay. I'm going to talk about, let me answer a few more questions. What's the second word I put on there? Contemplation, experimentation. Someone said, is doing the mini MBA and finishing my doctorate in accounting a good combination? I think so. I think so. And I'll tell you why in a second. But how would you make $1 million in an industry such as journalism? Is it a definite rule that you need to own a media company? Or is it a rule? Is it a rule that you need the help of networking contacts? I'm thinking a lot about how far I can get doing things my own way without having to sacrifice what I do okay. So if you want to be in a specific business, let's just say the media business, you got to first go straight to the top, emulate. So who's somebody to emulate? Vice magazine. Vice.com, they're breaking all the rules. People said you can't make money in magazines. People said you can't make money on YouTube. Well, they do those 2 things and they have a print magazine. I just saw Rupert Murdoch invested $70 million for 5%, something like that. So it's worth about, and now it's gone up, it's worth about a $1.5 billion. That's a media company. Now, I just talked about on my TV show this book right here. Where is that book? Where's the, oh, can you hand me that 0 to 1 book? I just talked about Peter Thiel has some ideas. There's a lot that you can do. Peter Thiel, this is a great book. It's today's book of the day deal. You can purchase it from me. So all kinds of stuff you can be doing, okay? But the way that I like to think about it, okay, is that it's not so much the industry that's the problem. Is it your unique business destiny? If you want to get into, you got to know this. If your goal is to become in the media because you think opportunistically it's a great idea, I think you have a high likelihood of failure, much higher than if you pursue. So I think you can make money in anything, any industry. I believe I'll give you an example. You know, Peter Thiel talks about how the airline industry, how the average airline for every, they sell a ticket on average for a one-way trip for $150. But the company only keeps 37 cents of it. So most airlines are very either losing money or very slim profit margins. But that's not necessary. If airlines is your unique thing, you can figure out how to make money in it. Maybe though you just can't have a big airline. So maybe you're too path specific and you're not goal oriented. If you want to be in the travel business, airline business, you could own NetJets. That's what Warren Buffett invested in. That's a private jet network, and it's profitable. Or maybe you figure out something like Ryanair, a super deep discount, or like Southwest Airlines. There's always, Joel Salatin used to say, the cream always rises to the top. So you just have to figure out what you have natural aptitude, what you could be in the top 5%. Then it doesn't matter. You can make money in movies, photography, in magazines, in food, in hotels, in restaurants, in art, everything. You can make it in music. It's just, you won't make it if you're not in the top 5%. Your bigger question should be, how in the world do I get in the top 5%? What are great websites for finding clients in LA and the US for people that travel, people with disposable income, networking groups? How could you make $1 million in the transportation industry, limo and party bus? Okay, party bus and limousine business is too specific. If your dream is just limos and party buses, you can have a harder time. I believe a product should be changing every 5-6 years, like Steve Jobs launches new products. He has the iPhone, iPad, the Mac. He never just, iTunes was a great product that he put out. And so, but the main industry never changes. The main industry he was in is what we call design and technology, or the design of technology. So how do I build courage to go straight to the top? Wouldn't shrinking the problem involve starting with lesser mentors? Well, the way I think about that is you can go straight to the top with this shrinking the problem by just reading Sam Walton's book. I mean, that's not shrinking the problem is going, you don't have to meet people in person, but that book's $5, and that man made more money than anyone in business ever. So that's a $5 shrinking the problem. I don't think you'll be able to shrink it any more than that. I know what you're saying, and there is truth to that. Like, you shouldn't make your first mentor flying to Warren Buffett's office in Omaha. You're probably not going to get an audience, but it doesn't take much courage to buy a $5 book. If you don't have that level of courage, it's probably not courage you need. It's probably more of just a mindset and a philosophy shift. I'm going to keep answering questions. There's 197 in this private VIP. I try to answer all of your questions at least once. If some of you put more than one, sometimes I can't get to all of them. But that's kind of the deal. I keep these small enough that you can get pretty much one-on-one. I charge $10,000 to meet in person, but that's why I like this. It's a happy median. So this business question a lot, going back to this book, Switch. 18 months is what you need. Here's how you got to shrink the problem financially. Back to now this is a different triangle. I love these pyramids. It's from my days in finance. We use this in risk reward as a common pyramid. So, and assets are divided into pyramids. So I want you to think of your financial life kind of like this. This is not really to scale, but scarcity, so that's 0. Oh, some of you, I actually need to add a new one here. I just realized. This is called Donald Trump debt. This means you are worse, you're like Donald Trump was in the late 80s and the 90s. You're negative. You're like 1 million in debt or 10,000 in debt. Okay? So that's not even, level 1 is here. Scarcity. That means you're making less than 75 a year. Here, 150. Here, 1 million. Okay? So you got Donald Trump debt. I've needed to add that because so many people are now in debt from university, unfortunately. You got scarcity. We're going to shrink the problem over 18 months. This is called independence. If you're watching this, you must get to that level. If you're already there, you have to get to prosperity. And then eventually you get above prosperity to wealth. You get over $1 million a year, you get to wealth and income. Impact. Now I've been in all of these. I was never 7 billion in debt like Sir Donald Trump, but I have been below 0. I remember that phase. I've been in this phase where I had $47 and was sleeping on my mom's couch in a mobile home in North Carolina with no college degree, no car, no girlfriend. All my friends had moved away, no future. I've been there. I remember hitting that. I went to work for GE Financial, and I was one of the first people to start doing internet marketing. I joined Google AdWords in March 2001, and it started in February. I was able to do huge amount of deals and grow my income very rapidly to between 75 and 150. This is an awesome place to be. That's where science says happiness begins to start when it comes to financially. I remember doing more than 150, getting to 150 to $1 million. This is pretty cool. And I remember getting things over this. Now, the only two places you don't want to be, if you're there, you're okay. You should still want to move up. Wealth and this, wealth gives you other advantages, but some disadvantages. Over $1 million, you get more haters, you get more liabilities, you get more headaches. But you should always be moving up slowly but surely. But this, you can't stay in. This is the death of you, of your hopes and dreams. So obviously, this one's even worse because now not only do you have nothing, but even if you work hard, you just give it to somebody else to pay them back. A lot of you college debts and stuff, or maybe you started a business, went in debt. So you got to shrink this problem. You got to knock it out every morning or every time when you're the freshest in the day. Start with 15 minutes. And so some of you were asking, I see quite a few comments. Let me show you something cool that you can do to shrink this problem that I developed. I created this program. Some of you are in it, so excuse me if you're already in it. Not to be repetitive, but there's other people in the group that have been asking me this, so take a 5-minute break or whatever. If you're not in it, let me show you something cool that you can do in 15 minutes a day. That I guarantee you, literally I guarantee you, will move you up that triangle. So you have 3 choices always in what you're doing, okay? If you want to learn the good life, you guys, I believe, on this call are doing it as well as anyone, because most people just do self-learning, okay? Self-learning is they just pick up a book randomly. They read a magazine when they're on the airplane and da-da-da. The problem here is that just gets you to level 1 knowledge. You just hear. It doesn't become instinctual. Also, so, the good news about self-learning is it's quick and easy. You can do it on your own time. You know, you pick up a magazine when you want if you're busy. It's cheap. It's easy. You can do it on your own time frame. The downsides, the negative are, most people are self-learning from a bad curriculum. I can't tell you. I just did a talk for 700 people a couple months ago, and I said, how many people have read The Lean Startup and Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week? Most of the room raised their hand. I said, how many people read this book? This guy made, I think Tim Ferriss made $10 million. I'm not sure how much Eric Ries made, but this guy made $160,000 million. Why would you read, why would you read my book if you haven't read this one? Don't read anything I put out if you haven't read this one, because this guy made infinitely more money. So people read the wrong curriculum, and then of course people procrastinate. There's no accountability. When there's no accountability, we learn socially, you don't follow through. So the other option, a lot of you have tried or are trying, university. The good thing about university is you have a good curriculum usually. Usually they give you, semi-decent sources of knowledge. You're not reading stupid stuff. The other thing is they have accountability. It's social, so you show up because there's other students there. You feel good. That's a cognitive bias. Accountability. What's the downside? It's expensive as heck. I was just speaking at USC at the Entrepreneur Talk, and one kid came up to me. About 80 kids were asking me questions, and I asked one of them, how much are you spending to be here for undergrad? And he said $267,000 for 4 years. That comes out to $6,000 a month his parents are spending. That's expensive because he says, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to even use this because I've already changed majors 4 times in a month. It's too expensive for what the value he's getting. Now, universities can be good. I told you the good stuff. The other problem with universities, when it comes to some things, like if you want to learn basketball, do you think you want to go to university? No, you want to go practice on the playground with Michael Jordan. That's it. You don't ever have to learn. It's good to learn a little textbook stuff so you know the plays, and you do need some book knowledge. But you want to learn basketball from a 60-year-old fat professor, or do you want to learn from Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant? So the problem is you're not learning from people who've done it. That's a huge problem in universities. I hope they don't get too mad at me. I'm not anti-university, but there is a solution. You're in it, one of the programs now, but not specifically for business. So I'm talking to those of you who are interested in business now. You need a hybrid model that takes the best of the self-learning and the best of the university and gets rid of the worst parts of each and leaves you only with the best, not the worst. You got to cut the worst out. Life's too short. So here's what I developed. You're in the program now for the good life. If you're very interested, you should stay in this program, and you can, and you should, because here we don't just talk about business. We don't just talk about wealth. We talk about love, happiness. Today we're talking about health, improving, all those things. But if you're very interested in business, I have a hybrid, best of self-learning, the best of university. I call it my Entrepreneur Lifestyle Academy, the mini MBA. Because you can get an MBA, Masters of Business. I just spoke at the London Business School, spoke at, that's the #2 MBA program in the world after Harvard. Spoke there. That's about $100,000 a year or something like that. Good, but still has the problems I mentioned earlier. So this mini entrepreneur program, here's what you get, and here's why it works. I'll read you what people are writing me that are in this program. It's insanely amazing. First of all, you get the right curriculum. At the right, you can self-pace yourself. Yet, there is some accountability, so you stick to it. You get access to only people who have done it themselves, people who have already become millionaires or beyond. You get access to live interaction. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to say. Good universities have live interaction. So you get access to live interaction. You get access to the social community. You know, in college, a lot of people go to college, like USC here in Los Angeles. Guess where George Lucas met Steven Spielberg? In a social setting at a university. If you don't go to university, or if you want to learn the new ways, you need a new social circle. You're going to get that. You're going to meet friends, allies, business partners, affiliates, marketing. I put up you're going to get new sources of information. Somebody was looking for a computer programmer, someone to make a logo, someone to build a website. In the community that I've created, they got the answers in minutes from other people in the community. You're going to be part of a revolution, and you always want to be part of a revolution. As Friedrich Nietzsche said, you know, every extraordinary person wants to rise above the crowd. That's be part of something new, different. One day people will look back and be like, that's what everybody should have been doing. But people are too slow. Next thing is, you want some in-person. You're going to get access to in-person stuff, literally face-to-face, not just on a video, one-on-one. And it's going to come affordable. Okay? How am I going to do? Oh, and lastly, I forgot, running out of room. You graduate prestigiously. That's another thing. People want the respect. You know, when I was thinking about going to college, I dropped out of college. I said, Allen Nation said, Ty, why do you want to go to college? I said, well, I want people to respect me. And he said, Ty, this is America, make $1 million. See, nobody respects a piece of paper, or people don't respect pieces of paper as much as they did in the 60s. They care about what you've done. And if you don't believe me, look at the Forbes list. Whether it's Bill Gates, or Richard Branson, who dropped out of high school, or Einstein, who for a time dropped out of high school, or Colonel Sanders, who built the second biggest restaurant chain in the world, who dropped out at 12 years old. It's not just pieces of paper. If you want a piece of paper, I think you should think a little more deeply. So what curriculum are you going to get? We're going to go through, and it's month to month. The other thing I was going to say, the other bad thing about college is you have to commit to a long time. So this one is no long-term commitment. So you don't have to, you know, you can stay for 1 month or 18 months. I recommend you stay at least, you got to stay 3 months ideally, in my opinion. You need to have enough time to kick in. But the curriculum, I've recorded and built a curriculum that I think is the most powerful thing. Not because I built it, but because it's based on the experience I've had. Some of the negative things, losing $28 million. You're going to learn how I lost $28 million, but now how I knew how to build it back. You're going to get that without having to lose $28 million. You're going to learn what I've learned from all of my mentors, 5 mentors, guys like Joel Salatin, Allen Nation, Mike Murphy, all these top Gordon Hazard, people with net worth at $10 million on to $1 billion. You're going to learn what I learned from my 12 or 15 business partners that I have. Some of these are guys, friends making $1 million a day. There's no place that self-made stuff, where did I put that? Oh yeah, people who have done it are all in one place in a curriculum. You're going to learn about the 4 Ps. We're going to start out, identify the industry, create the idea. If you already have an idea, we're going to modify, we're going to solidify it so it's more and more powerful. Then we're going to get into product selection. We're going to, what products to pick, how to do split testing, experimentation, the PPV formula, right? Then we're going to get in, so we're going to make an elaborate plan. You need a sophisticated plan, but not a business plan that's long that you write out, nothing like that. In fact, the shorter the better. Then we're going to get into pricing. You have to know banking, you have to know business structure, you have to know how to get asset protection, how to form your company. If you already have a company, how to build it strategically. You're going to learn how to optimize the pricing demand curve, like the Wharton professors talk about in the book Smart Pricing. This has the potential to make you more money than grossing more revenue or cutting more costs. Very few people know this. I learned this from my friend making $1 million a day. $1 million a day. $1 billion company in under 7 years he built. Then we're going to move on and you're going to learn promotion, every promotional tool, how to get 1 million customers. That's what I'm talking about. The PPV formula, the virality formula, the paid, whether it's Google AdWords, AdSense, whether it is monetizing and promoting through television, through direct mail, through email, all those things. When it comes to direct mail, I learned from a man who has almost the largest email list in the world. He has 600 million people, clean, not a spammer. He sends out billions of emails a day. There's nothing you'll ever find online about the things you're about to learn. When it comes to credit card processing, you'll learn everything you need about MIDs and load balancing MIDs. Very difficult. Learn about ISOs and super ISOs and how things work. This sounds crazy to you now, but I'm breaking down, like I said, if you can spend 15 minutes a day, you'll see the revolution start. It's going to be at your own pace, so you can do this. If you're a night owl, do it at night. If you like to be in the morning, you do it in the morning. Or if you want to do it on your phone, it's all available at a fingertip 24/7. But there's accountability. Twice a month we meet. Not, we do this twice a month, but the other 2 Tuesdays a month, we do live calls just about business, just about living the entrepreneur dream, the mini MBA. Remember what the dream is. It's what everybody wants. You want a Lamborghini, you get a Lamborghini. You want to give money to charity. You want to help your mom. You want to make sure your kids have the best. You want to take a month off because you need a vacation and travel the world and just buy a ticket and go. You can do all that if you're living the dream, but you're not going to get there overnight. We're going to get in the curriculum how to hire, how to fire, how to build business partners, industrial level automation. I can go on and on. There's 18 months, but you can just start for 1 month or 3 months. You're only going to learn. I'm going to give you access to my mentors. I've recorded a special Millionaire Mentor interview series. These are people who I'm interviewing that are my mentors. Most of my mentors, people ask me, Ty, how do I meet your mentors? I'm like, unfortunately, they're meeting with presidents and prime ministers all the time. They're on their private jets traveling around the world. They don't have time and they don't want to tell all their secrets to the public. But a lot of them are friends and allies and business partners, and they'll sit down with me, and I've created a Millionaire Mentor interview series. Only people with net worth over $10 million. A lot of these people are at the 500 million. Or there's a guy I was just with that I mentor and help and advise, and he's under 30, worth $800 million. It's those type of people you're going to get direct access. There's nothing like that on any podcast, YouTube. I've already looked. Not with the focus that we've had. You're going to have live interaction, like I said, twice a month, where you can ask me questions. You'll be part of a community, part of a revolution. You're going to get, I do public talks around the world. I did Texas, Austin, London, Norway, Sweden, Germany, New York City, Connecticut, San Diego, Los Angeles, and Florida this year. You're going to be able to be VIP when you're in this program, always at those events. When I was in Union Square in New York, I was able to be live I take people, we go out to dinner after from 6 to 3 in the morning. I was talking one-on-one with only the VIP people. You'll be able to be VIP. Once a year, we do a summit. All the people in the program and graduates come in person in that community. I used to not do this, but I've recently added this. You're going to get one-on-one at the beginning. When you join the program today, I'm going to give some scholarships. I'm going to give you one-on-one access to either me or one of my top CEOs to do what I call an acceleration call. So you're talking one-on-one to me. I don't always have time to do them all. I'm trying to graduate. I want to graduate only 300 people a month. That's the goal, okay? So I'm not putting millions of people in here. When you graduate, you're not going to get a piece of paper from me. I'm not an accredited, I don't want to be accredited university. I want you to have you will have the respect of people. A lot of people know me in business. It will open doors to say. Me being a graduate of Joel Salatin's apprenticeship, his first apprentice, it's opened many doors. People ask me how I get mentors. People look at the pedigree and where you come from. Okay? You're going to get that. Let me read you something about some people that are in the program, because people ask me how fast this works. Here's a guy who I didn't even know he was in the program, and this is what he said. Hi, Ty, I've been listening to your programs for the past 3 months. Started with the 67-step programs and then got the business program. I started building my tools in my tool belt, that's the curriculum here, and realizing certain things along the way. Last Friday, the company I was working for, so he wasn't an entrepreneur yet. And by the way, let me just say, this is for people who should be in this. You should only be in this. If you're making more than $1 million, you need to be in my inner circle. If you're under 1 million, if you're zero, you don't have an idea, or you have an idea but you never done it, all the way up to 1 million, okay, this is the perfect program for you. If you're over 1 million, you should go in my inner circle, but it's invitation only. You have to be doing over 1 million in gross revenue, and ideally a little bit more, okay? I got people in there at the $800 million net worth level. So anyway, back to this. This guy says, last Friday, the company I was working for closed down. That was at 9:30 in the morning. By 11 in the morning, I was building a new company, and since then I've signed all the best customers and all the best advertisers they work with. I started doing business tomorrow with confirmed deals. Thank you. This is a genuine message. I'm grateful for your efforts to change the world. So what's the time frame? I said there's no long term. Okay? So there's no long term. You can go 3 months or continue 18 months. How quickly did he see results? 1.5 hours from when he started. He started at 9:30 in the morning. I mean, he had been in the program for a little while, but it took him 1.5 hours to launch a business. Read you one more cool one. I'll let you read this right on my WhatsApp. Union Square, I was there in September. It's been a couple months. This guy wrote me a few days. He wrote me on Thanksgiving. I'll cover his name here so you guys don't give him privacy. Says, hey Ty, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for the beautiful gift. I formed my S Corp, found my partners, and raised $150,000 out of the required $700,000. He said, simultaneously working on the real estate model. Lots of great stuff in the works. I can't thank you enough. So that was about 2 months he was in the program when he was able to raise. That's a lot of money. Imagine if you could raise $150,000, because we talk about how to raise capital, how to use debt, debentures, when to use them, when not, when to use equity, when to do franchising and licensing, anything you possibly would know, accounting, how to hire, how to fire. That's what you're about to learn. It took him 2 months. Some of you will take 1.5 hours, and some of you, it's not get rich quick, will take 18 months. I don't know. Depends on where you're coming from, how committed you are. So I want to get back to the book, but I want to just offer this. I need a little bit of time to lay out why people should be in this. Now, pricing, I said it's affordable. This is how I recommend you do all your marketing. 10X rule. This is how you figure out the price. Okay? So if USC and London Business School and these schools are $6,000 a month, that's how I came up with. So I know I'm going to deliver at least that much value, if not way more. So I just do 1/10 of that. So we decided to charge $597 a month. So for 3 months times $597 is $1,800. Now, because you're already in this program, you're here live, you're showing up. Every month I set aside some scholarship money, just like universities do. This is a hybrid model. I didn't go to college, but I want to offer the hybrid that I've done. So I will pick up about half of the cost. So today it's just $997 bucks. 3 months, 90 days, that's $10 a day. Always break it down. Remember people, I said simplify it? If that seems overwhelming, $10 a day investing in yourself, best $10 you'll ever spend. I'm telling you, not because I built it, but because I would have paid $1 million. In fact, I would pay $28 million because by not having this given to me by somebody else in one place, I lost $28 million over a few years, not knowing one simple pricing strategy that you'll learn. So 3 months, and then after that, if you want to stay, it's $597. But you don't have to. You can stop, okay? The way to make any decision, that might, $10 a day might seem overwhelming. Maybe you're in that much scarcity, but think of it this way. The 2 R's of all decision making. RR. That's the formula I love, the RR formula. Reward. Jeff Bezos had a choice. He could go to make Amazon back in 1998. He had a job making him $200 grand a year or more, or something like that, on Wall Street. So the risk was he lost the 200 grand because if he quit his job like he ended up doing, the reward was forming Amazon and he made $38 billion and he has his own rocket ship. I read he built his own rocket ship down in Texas. I think he's going to use it for other people, but it's pretty cool to have your own rocket ship. The downside was what if he lost the money that he would have made, plus he put some money in. He borrowed $70,000, I think, from his parents. So his loss, because he knew he could get a job again if it didn't work out being an entrepreneur, living the entrepreneur dream. That's what he's pulled off. So he knew in a year he could lose 270, but he said, you know what? The reward is also never having regrets. That's what he says. You can read that in the Amazon book, The Everything Store. He said, what if I go to my grave knowing I never tried and I could have been worth $38 billion? He didn't want that pain. So the reward, even if he failed, was no regret. So let me show you something. So the reward for him way outweighed the risk. Now, but what if I can make the risk for you zero? What if there would have been no risk for Jeff Bezos? Then he would say you're insane not to do it. There's a famous CEO that I know, his name's Kyle, he lives in Virginia, and he said to me when I was young, he said, Ty, here's how you decide things. If you can make your money back in under 3 years, you're crazy to not invest in it. He said if it takes you 3 to 7 years to get your money back, think hard on it. Maybe don't do it. Maybe you should, but on the fence. He said if it's going to take you more than 7 years to get your money back, you probably shouldn't do it. So what if I can make the reward not 3 years, but what if I could say, try it for 3 months, put the $9.97 in, that's a fair price. I'm picking up half the price. And if you don't like it after 3 months, just ask for a refund. Somebody asked me if that's risky. I was like, no, because hardly anyone ever asks for refunds. I don't know if anyone's asked for a refund, but inevitably someone will. And I don't care because I know I can go to bed knowing I'm putting down in that curriculum stuff that's so valuable. I'm telling you this. And notice this has my name on it. It's not the only way I make money. I would never jeopardize my name for $9.97. It's good stuff. People are writing in. You know, the 67-step challenge that I created, we're on track to have 1 million positive comments in the year of launching it. 1 million. If you put out good stuff, people won't refund that much. So the risk for you is zero. So when the reward is move up the pyramid. I'm not promising you if you're completely broke, you will move in 18 months to wealth, $1 million, but I'm promising you if you do it step by step, you will move up 1 notch, sometimes 2. Now, sometimes people take a little longer. Sometimes people take an hour and a half. I can't control that, but I can control if after 3 months you don't like it, it's 0. So I like to do this. I don't like to give too many scholarships away. I usually give about 2% of people can have scholarships. So I'm going to do 10%, 10 people. I'm going to put the button up. We're going to keep going through the book, keep answering questions. That will be up until the 10 are sold out. Okay? And then there's no scholarship. You can still get in the program, but it'll be $1,800 for the 3 months. Okay? So now it's $900, no risk. I can't do better than that. I don't want to do better than that because I don't like, Joel Salatin said, never give everything away you do for free, Ty. People don't value it. Dr. Martina Adshade, in a good book she wrote, said, if you make things completely free, like Plenty of Fish or OkCupid, the dating site, people flake and don't get what they want. They never go on the dates. But if they pay a little bit, like Match.com or eHarmony, they show up. I want you to show up because it just will change your life. Okay. Keep going through. The button is up. If you don't see the button, okay, refresh the page. Somebody said, Ty, I love the mini MBA, one of the best courses I've done. I've learned way more from courses like yours than I did in college. Thank you. Which mini MBA do I start first, Entrepreneur Code or Blue Belt? So I used to have some starter programs and I've combined them all. So there is no more Blue Belt Entrepreneur Code. It's been all moved in. So one thing, if you were in the original programs, I've now made a more comprehensive, better program. That was a good program, but this one's a lot even better. So if you were in those, we'll give you a credit. You can email Maya at Ty Lopez. She's right there waiting. She'll answer you pretty much instantly, and we'll give you a discount for what, if you already paid a couple $100, we'll discount that off the $997. That's only if the people have already done it, okay? If you have any questions about currency or if your card gets declined, go ahead and just do it there, okay? How much is the Greenbelt? So Greenbelt is now part of the mini MBA. You first need to be in the mini MBA, then the Greenbelt, which is the persuasion stuff, can be added on. But I've learned I don't do the Greenbelt as much standalone. I did that as a beta offering, but it's much better if it's part of the whole mini MBA. So get in the mini MBA, and then you can email Maya at Ty Lopez. The Greenbelt right now, the persuasion stuff, is a little more invitation only. All right. Ty, you say focus on one talent, one thing, one business, but you seem to read a variety of books and subjects and have a comprehensive knowledge. So, great question. The way that works is there's two things. You want to be focused, but yet you want to be a Renaissance man or woman, okay? At the same time. So you have your predominant focus, okay? So every day I read books about my predominant focus, which is, business, education, and media. That's my primary industry. So I read a lot of stuff in there, but you want to round out. So 80% maybe of what I read, but then I still read Homer. I read Odysseus, I read books about agriculture, I read books about diet and all those things, because life isn't just my one focus. You got to have health, wealth, love, and happiness. But what I don't do, I still have a primary focus. When Gary Keller wrote The One Thing, he didn't literally mean you just do one thing for 24 hours. That's not possible. He was saying you have one primary focus. Okay, so hopefully that answers that. Someone said, I signed up 2 days ago during the live seminar. Is this the same thing? It's the same thing, so you don't need to do it again. How would you as a startup begin to take a market share in a very competitive market? Very easy. I just talked about this in the business school in today's page 53 of Peter Thiel's new book. Start small and monopolize. Every startup is small at the start. Every monopoly dominates a large share of its market. Therefore, every startup should start with a very small market. Always err on the side of starting too small. The reason is simple. It's easier to dominate a small market than a large one. If you think your initial market might be too big, it almost certainly is. Now, one note, he says small doesn't mean non-existent. So you want to go as small as you can that still has enough customers to support you. Go smaller. Do I recommend the mini MBA for someone like me who's just getting by? Well, I need a lot more money after to be successful. I recommend it for anybody. I don't recommend you, take money from your child, from children or something like that to pay for this. But if you can afford it in any way possible, go into it, because within the program, like I told you, that I showed you on WhatsApp, that guy who had no money, he was able to raise $150,000 learning the things that you're going to learn. Do you think it's more important to go with your gut and work to achieve the things you feel are best for you, or work on the things that others expect you to deliver? I'm going to transition right now. You have to go in a fine balance. You can't completely ignore the other 7 billion people on the planet. So the better way to think about that is you're two extremes. So here's the two extremes of making decisions for people. You have people here, and you have people here. I don't want you to be here. That's thesis, antithesis. Get to the synthesis, the happy balance. So what that means is, this is the star. Okay, here are people who there's a guy on my YouTube, some random person commenting that, oh, don't read books, it's not important. He's never understood what the book, where great ideas come from. All great ideas come from people learning from many people, okay? So you could go just inward, 100% inward by your gut. The problem is, would you want to be on an airplane being flown by an airplane pilot who's never flown a pilot and is just going by his gut? I wouldn't, because you're going to crash. So this is why 80% of entrepreneurs are broke in a few years. Okay? Then you got people here who learn from too many people. They try to get business advice from every friend they've ever had, from 1,000 different people.